3 miles. That's how far your father walks to work on the mornings the truck won't start. He doesn't wait for a ride. He just zips his jacket to his chin, grabs his lunch in a plastic bag, starts walking down the street in the cold. You watch him from the window. He gets smaller, then he's gone. You're 8. You don't know it yet, but this walk and a letter under the sugar bowl and a number you can't even spell right now. These are the first pieces of a much bigger story. A story that ends 28 years later with an orange car in a driveway that used to have a bucket in the ceiling catching rain. The truck is a Ford Ranger, dark green, the paint's gone chalky on the hood, 91,000 miles. Most mornings it starts fine. Not this one. Your father turns the key. Click. Nothing. He waits. Tries again. Click. Still nothing. Your mother doesn't say a word. She just closes her eyes for a second. The way people do when they're asking something invisible for a favor. A favor it already said no to, twice this month. Then she opens her eyes. She starts moving. There's a school to get you to. A shift she can't be late for. A few weeks before this, the truck needed a new starter, $90. Maybe less, because your father did the labor himself. Flat on his back, cold concrete, a Saturday morning. But before he even knew that was the problem, he did something else first. He went to the bank. He asked for a small loan, $900, nothing dramatic. Not a vacation. Just enough to stay ahead of the next repair, instead of always chasing it. The bank said no. Nobody was rude about it. It came in the mail a week later. A letter, typed up official. A return address that looked more expensive than anything actually inside it. Insufficient credit history. Insufficient collateral. Your father read it twice at the kitchen counter. Slow. The way you read a bad note from a doctor. Then he folded it into thirds, slid it under the sugar bowl. That's where letters go in your house, when nobody wants to look at them a third time. He ended up at a payday lender instead. A storefront 2 towns over. A sign out front that buzzed even in daylight. 25% interest, over 3 months. He paid it off in 2. That felt like a win, that night at the kitchen table. But a win at that interest rate is still a loss. It's just wearing a nicer shirt. Nobody explains that part before you sign. Nobody ever does. Here's the first rule. Nobody teaches it to you out loud. It just arrives. The bank doesn't care if you're a good person. The bank cares if you're predictable. Your neighbor is a man named Otis, 60-something, retired. Keeps a toolbox in the trunk of his car, the way some men keep a Bible on the nightstand. He hears the Ranger not starting, from 2 houses down, every single time. And he's already crossing your yard before your father thinks to call him. He doesn't ask what's wrong first. He just opens the hood. Looks. The way a doctor looks at an X-ray, he's already seen 100 times. $10 and a cup of coffee. That's Otis's rate. Has been for years. She's tired, Otis says one morning, wiping his hands on a rag that's more grease than rag. Not dead. Tired. Your father laughs once, short, not really about anything funny. He says the same thing back almost every time. Give her a minute, she'll come around. She doesn't come around that morning. Your father zips his jacket the rest of the way up, grabs his lunch, starts walking. You watch him from the window. Until the cold fogs up the glass. Until you can't see him anymore. Later that day, riding home in your mother's car, the Ranger's still sulking in the driveway. An orange Lamborghini passes you on the highway. Going what feels like triple your speed. It doesn't look like a car. It looks like a color that escaped from somewhere it wasn't supposed to leave. Your father's in the passenger seat. He goes quiet, watching it disappear up ahead. You ask him what kind of car that was. He tells you. Then he says something you'll carry for the next 28 years. You won't fully know why, not for a long time. That's the kind of car people buy, he says, still watching the empty highway, when the bank finally starts saying yes to them, instead of no. You don't understand that yet. You're 8, you just nod. That night, you hear something you're not supposed to hear. Your parents, at the kitchen table. The light turned down low. Your mother's voice is quiet. Tired of being quiet, if that makes sense. She's talking about the letter, under the sugar bowl. Your father's talking about the loan, how it's almost paid off, how it won't happen again. How next time, he'll ask Otis before he asks a bank. You lie in bed. You listen to the shape of their voices through the wall. Not every word. Just the tone. You've heard that tone before. You'll hear it again. And somewhere underneath all of it, without anyone saying it directly, you start to understand something. Money isn't really about how hard your family works. It's about who the system decides to believe. You fall asleep before the conversation ends. In the morning, the Ranger starts on the first try. Like it never gave anyone trouble at all. Your father backs it out of the driveway, waves at Otis across the yard, drives you to school like it's just another Tuesday. It is just another Tuesday. That's the part nobody tells you when you're 8. Most of the mornings that shape your whole life, they don't feel like anything special while they're happening. They just feel like a truck that finally started. A letter buried under a sugar bowl. An orange car disappearing down a highway. A highway that one day, without you fully realizing when it happened, you'll be the one driving on. You work the counter at an auto parts store now, edge of town, the kind of place that smells like rubber and burnt coffee, no matter the season. You bag brake pads, you climb the ladder for oil filters nobody else can reach. Your name tag spelled wrong has been for 8 months, nobody's fixed it. Every Saturday around 6, a man walks in. Same time, same door. You hear his car before you see it, an Aventador, orange. Loud enough that the whole lot turns to look. He wears a watch that costs more than your family's truck. He never checks a price tag. Not once. He hands over a card, black, no numbers on it, and walks out like the 30 seconds it took to ring him up was already too much of his day. Meanwhile, your mother's in the next aisle. 3 days a week now, buying a tire, on a payment plan. $60 a month. 6 months. She calls it a payment plan. That's a nicer name for it. It's still a loan, same math as a credit card, just smaller, slower. And somehow that makes it feel less humiliating. The math doesn't care how it feels. 2 customers. Same Saturday, same store, 12 feet apart, completely different financial universes. You watch both of them from behind the register. You don't say anything. What would you even say? That night, you go home. You open your laptop. You search the price of a Lamborghini. The number that comes up doesn't feel like a number. It feels like a wall, with a price tag stapled to it. Your father sees the glow of the screen on your face before you can close it. "What are you looking at?" he asks. Not accusing, just asking. "Nothing," you say, which is the universal teenage word for something you want so bad it's embarrassing to say out loud. He sits down next to you anyway. You brace for the lecture. Be realistic. Money doesn't grow on trees. All of it. Instead, he says something you don't expect. Dreams only sound stupid, he says to people who already gave up on theirs. You look at him. Then he adds the part that actually matters, the part you'll repeat to yourself quietly for years. "If you ever get the thing," he says, "make sure the thing doesn't get you first." You nod, like you understand. You don't. Not yet. A few weeks later, your mother finishes paying off the tire. $60. The last one. She doesn't celebrate. She just crosses it off a list on the fridge, moves on to the next thing on it. You notice that? The way nothing ever really finishes in your house, it just gets replaced by the next payment. You go back to work the next Saturday. Same counter, same smell of rubber and burnt coffee. The orange Aventador doesn't come in that week. You catch yourself checking the lot anyway, out of habit. A different customer comes in instead. Older, quiet, pays cash for a single headlight bulb, counts it out slow, coin by coin, like every cent still matters to him personally. You ring him up, he says thank you, means it. You think about that later. How some people spend $300,000 without blinking. And some people count out coins for a headlight bulb like it's a small ceremony. Neither one of them looks at you twice, you're just the kid behind the register. To both of them. But you're the only one who saw both of them. Same day. Same store. That's the part nobody at either end of that gap ever notices. They only ever see their own side of it. Here's the rule you carry out of that store. Out of that year. Money doesn't ask if you deserve it, it asks if you understand it. You don't fully get that yet either. Not at 16. But you're starting to. One Saturday at a time. You've got a badge now, a cubicle. A manager who says circle back so often you started keeping a tally. On a sticky note, stuck to your monitor, $54,000 a year. Before taxes. To your family, that number sounds like a rival. To your rent, It sounds like something closer to survival, with better lighting. You drive a dark gray Accord, 143,000 miles on it. The passenger seat doesn't slide forward anymore. Hasn't for a year. You paid cash for it. Nobody claps for that. Cash for a used sedan isn't a story anyone tells at a party. There's a guy at work, name's Reese, sales department. 27 years old, got married last spring, keeps his phone face up on his desk, screen split between his email and a crypto chart he checks more than either one. He leases a white Tesla. Somehow, he always finds a reason to walk past your car in the parking lot. Bro, he says one afternoon, looking at your Accord like it personally offended him. You're too young to drive something this sad. It starts, you say. That's the bare minimum, he says, and walks off, like he won something. That night, you open a notebook. Not an app. A physical notebook. Spiral spine. Seeing the numbers in your own handwriting does something a screen doesn't. It makes them real. Income, rent, insurance, debt. What's left? $200 a month. That's what you write down. That's what you can send somewhere else. If you don't upgrade the car. If you don't move to the nicer building down the street. If you don't buy the jacket that would make you look like you belong in rooms you haven't earned yet. You open an account on a Sunday night. A Roth IRA. Balance zero. You fund it, $200. It feels like nothing. You set up an automatic transfer anyway. The day after payday. So you never see the money long enough to talk yourself out of sending it. You also learn something that night. It's called an expense ratio. 0.5% doesn't sound like much. Over decades, it quietly costs tens of thousands of dollars. Money you'll never see. Never get back. You switch funds. You don't tell anyone. There's no one to tell. Reese leases a new car 18 months later. Same story, different color. You don't say anything. You don't need to. By the end of that first year, your account reads $2,400. Not a number that changes your life. A number that exists quietly. In an app, you check less than you used to. Because checking stopped producing any feeling worth chasing. This is the part nobody talks about, because there's nothing to talk about. The first year of $200 a month isn't a story. It's a habit. And habits, before they produce results, only produce themselves. You keep going anyway. Here's the rule you carry out of this year. Looking rich and being rich are opposite skills. Most people only ever practice one of them. The Accord's got 181,000 miles on it now. The driver's side window only goes down if you know the exact spot to hit the switch. You've learned the spot. Your salary's crept up a little. Not enough to feel wealthy, enough to make the excuses quieter. Quietly, without telling a single person, your investment account crosses $87,000. Nobody at work knows this. They still only see the Accord. You've also started something on the side. Building websites for small businesses that can't afford an agency. It barely makes money yet, but it's teaching you something apps and spreadsheets can't. How to keep going when nobody's watching. Then the market drops. 14%. Over 11 weeks. That sounds like a headline until it's your account. Losing value in real time. Every red number, a small physical flinch. Your thumb hovers over the sell button one night. You sit with it. You don't press it. Instead, you do the thing that feels wrong and is actually right. You keep sending the same amount you always send. Buying shares while they're cheap. Because the calendar doesn't know the market's having a bad month. This has a name. Dollar cost averaging. Not exciting. Nobody brags about it at a bar. It's just showing up. Same day, every month, whether the account feels good that week or not. 8 months later, the market comes back. The shares you bought during the dip are worth more now than what you paid. Nobody notices. Nobody claps. The compounding doesn't ask for an audience. Reese sees your keys on the break room table one afternoon. His phone buzzes twice while he's talking, a price alert he doesn't look down at, like he's trying to prove something to himself. Still driving that thing? He asks. Yep, you say. You make good money, man, he says. At some point, looking broke is a choice. You laugh. Laughing costs nothing. Explaining costs more than it's worth. That weekend, you're at a red light. A papaya orange McLaren pulls up next to you. The driver doesn't look over, doesn't need to. The light turns green. He's gone before your foot's fully off the brake. For 1 second, you hate your life. Not because it's bad, because your dream just passed you. doing 60, and you were standing still. You go home, you raise your monthly transfer, $200 becomes $450. Your hand shakes a little, typing the number in. Not from excitement, from the discomfort of choosing the future over the version of tonight that wanted something easier. A few weeks later, you're at your parents' house for dinner. Your sister's there too, home for the weekend. Your father asks how work is going. You say fine. He asks about the Accord. You say it's still running. He doesn't ask about money. He never does. But he watches you a little longer than usual, the way he used to watch the hood of the Ranger, like he's checking for something he can't quite name. You don't tell him about the 87,000. Not yet. It doesn't feel like the right kind of number to say out loud at a dinner table, not because you're ashamed of it, because you're not sure what it would do to the room. Here's the rule you carry out of this year. The market doesn't reward your feelings. It rewards your patience. Those aren't the same skill, only one of them compounds. The Accord dies on a Thursday. Not with drama. Just a quiet refusal in a grocery store parking lot. You turn the key. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Milk and eggs melting slowly in the back seat while you sit there, laughing, then not laughing. You think about an 8-year-old in the back of a truck that wouldn't start either. You didn't expect that memory to show up here. It shows up anyway. A tow truck comes. The driver asks how long you had the car. 9 years, you say. Got your money's worth, he says. He has no idea. A week later you buy another used car. Cash again. A white sedan. Low mileage, for what you paid. Reese sees it Monday morning. You're the most boring successful person I know, he says. For the first time it doesn't land the way it used to, because by now your investment account has crossed $310,000. And the side thing, the websites, the small businesses, has stopped being a side thing. You've hired a freelancer to help. Then a second one. The work's gotten too real to keep calling it a hobby. You register it properly. An LLC. A separate business account, so the work money doesn't tangle with your rent money. It sounds like paperwork. It's actually a wall between what you own and what the business owes. Nobody teaches you this in school. Then you quit your job. Your mother cries on the phone. Your sister says something close to a scream, half excited, half terrified for you. Your father doesn't cry. He asks one question. You sure? Yeah, you say. He nods. That's the whole ceremony. That's as close to a blessing as he knows how to give. You spend the next few months building the business full time. Some weeks are good. Some weeks you don't pay yourself at all. So the freelancers still get paid on time. Nobody sees that part. Nobody claps for the weeks you go without, so someone else doesn't have to. There's a night, a few months in, where you sit at your kitchen table doing the math on whether this was a mistake. The numbers say no, barely, but no. You keep going. Here's the rule you carry out of this year. Nobody claps when the compounding starts working. By the time anyone notices, you've already won the part that mattered. The business is doing better than the spreadsheet ever predicted. Not overnight. Just steadily, month after month, in a way that stopped feeling fragile somewhere along the way without you noticing exactly when. Your net worth crosses $1 million. You don't post about it. You don't buy a watch. You don't tell Reese. You sit with the number for a minute alone in your apartment. You thought it would feel like something. It mostly just feels like a checkpoint. Quiet, almost anticlimactic. You drive out to the rental house your parents have lived in since before you can remember. The one with a bucket under a ceiling stain that's been there so long it has its own nickname in your family. Your sister's there too. Home for the weekend. You set a folder on the kitchen table. The same table where you once overheard a conversation about a letter under the sugar bowl. What's this? Your mother asks. A house, you say. A real garage. A roof that doesn't leak. No buckets. Nobody says anything for a second. Your sister starts crying first. Your mother covers her mouth with one hand. Your father opens the folder slowly, looking at the photos like he's checking for a typo, like the good news might turn out to be a misprint if he looks close enough. You bought this? He asks. For all of us, you say. He doesn't cry, he just goes very still. The same way he used to go still under the hood of the Ranger, like stillness is the only response big enough for the moment. A month later, you're carrying boxes into the new house. Otis shows up to help, even though his back's worse now than it used to be. He doesn't say much while he works, just carries what he can, slow, careful, the way older men carry things when they don't want to admit what it costs them. At the end of the day, he stands in the driveway. Looks at your father. "About time life gave you a garage," he says. Your father laughs. Short, real this time, not the laugh from the Ranger mornings. That night, after everyone's gone home, you walk through the empty rooms of the new house by yourself. No furniture yet, just the sound of your own footsteps on floors that don't creak. You stop in the garage. Empty. Concrete floor, clean, no stains yet. You think about the notebook, still somewhere in a drawer at your old place. $200, written in your own handwriting, 11 years ago. You didn't know, writing that number down, that it would eventually buy a roof that doesn't leak. Here's the rule you carry out of this year. Wealth doesn't erase where you came from. It just gives you somewhere better to park it. The appointment is at 11 in the morning. You almost cancel it twice. Here's the strange part. Not because you can't afford it. You can. The business is solid. The investments are solid. Your family's debt is gone. Your emergency fund could survive a bad year without blinking. You cancel out of something closer to fear. For 28 years, the dream kept you moving forward. What happens once you actually catch it? You bring your father. He wears his good shirt, the one your mother still irons, even though he tells her it doesn't matter anymore. In the car, he says, "I don't know how to act in a place like this." "Me neither," you say. The showroom doors open. The salesman already knows your name, which feels for a second like he's mistaken you for someone else. You walk past a silver Porsche, a red Ferrari, a Bentley, sitting heavy and quiet under the lights. Then you see it. A Huracan Technica. Orange. 23 miles on the odometer. $318,000. Your father stops walking. The salesman starts talking. The engine. The brakes. Numbers that mean something to a certain kind of person. You hear pieces of it. Mostly, you hear something else. You hear a truck coughing in a cold driveway. You hear your mother closing her eyes at a kitchen table. You hear Reese's voice in a break room. Every joke you swallowed instead of answering out loud. Before you sign anything, you do one more piece of math. Quietly. In your head. The same way you've done math your whole life, when nobody's watching. $318,000 left in the market instead, at an average return of 10%, becomes over $3 million in 20 years. You know this. You do it anyway. Because for the first time in your life, this isn't a decision made out of scarcity. It's a decision made with your eyes open, knowing exactly what it costs, choosing it anyway. That's the part nobody tells you about money, once you actually have some. It's not that the trade-off disappears. It's that you're finally allowed to make it on purpose, instead of by accident. The salesman hands you the key. It's heavier than you expected. Your father gets into the passenger seat first before you even ask him to. He pulls the door shut. Sits with his hands flat on his knees, the way he sat in doctor's offices when you were a kid. Neither of you starts the engine. Not yet. The showroom noise stays outside, muffled on the other side of the glass. Just the two of you in the quiet for a few seconds that feel longer than they are. Your father looks at it, then at you. "Cash?" he asks. "Cash?" you say. He looks away for a second. Fast. Not fast enough. You don't hug him the way people do in movies. You just stand there next to him. Both of you looking at the same car. Both of you thinking about a truck that wouldn't start on a cold morning, 28 years ago. He touches the hood once. Carefully, like it might still say no to him. Then he looks down at his own hand for a second, like he's checking it's still his. "Funny," he says quiet. "I still expect it not to start." "Your grandfather would have liked this," he adds. "Maybe he can see it," you say. Your father nods slowly. That's the whole conversation. No tears you can actually see, just two men standing quietly next to something that used to be impossible. That evening, back at the house with the new garage, Otis walks over one more time. Hands in his pockets, looking at the orange paint under the driveway light. "She start on the first try?" he asks, nodding at the car. "Every time," you say. Otis looks at it a moment longer. Then at your father. "Guess she finally came around," he says. Your father laughs, short, real. Wasn't always that easy around here, Otis says. No. You say, it wasn't. Later, alone in the garage, engine ticking as it cools, you think about the notebook again. Somewhere in a drawer. $200, written in your own handwriting. A number that felt like nothing at the time. You look at the notebook in your head, then at the car in front of you. Turns out they were always the same story. Somewhere tonight, in a different town, a kid is sitting in the back seat of a car that won't start. He doesn't know that yet. He's just cold. A little embarrassed. Watching his father turn a key that isn't answering, an orange car passes him on the highway a few minutes later, doing something close to triple the speed limit. He doesn't know the driver. He doesn't know the driver's father is sitting quietly in the passenger seat, saying nothing, because some things don't need saying twice. The kid just watches it disappear. He thinks this is a story about a car. It never was.